This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Hing.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio. Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths who navigate consciousness. Their passion is to support you in your evolution. As consciousness, we are all one mind, one heart, free of all limitations. Experience this reality with us and discover how it can make a difference in your daily living. Join us in a state of grace as we explore, with warmth and humor, this thing we call life. Now, here are Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We're your co-hosts, Joan Newcomb, coming to you from Tacoma, Washington, and my partner, Janet Barrett, is coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Hello, everyone. Good morning or afternoon or evening, whatever time it might be in your place.
Yes. And today on Conscious Conversations, we are talking about consciousness and core values. What are they? And the energetic upheaval is making it easier to know what is truly important to you, what are your true values, and what we take for granted. So stay tuned and discover what your essential values are and how to use them to navigate as consciousness.
This is a great time for knowing these kind of things, Joan. It's just been one thing I've noticed for people is how important it is to really get in touch with what's important to you. So that's what today's show will be all about.
Yes.
And we're going to invite you to go deeper with us, connect with us beyond the show. You can join us at our website, www.consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com, and Joan's going to tell you all the great things you'll find there.
Yes, you will find marvelous and great things. You will find all our podcasts. All our podcasts of all our shows are there. You will also find our blog posts. Janet and I each write fabulous blogs, very insightful blogs. And we each give really interesting, really fascinating meetups. Janet does hers on Tuesdays and Thursdays in Portland, and the lovely comfort of her home, the comfort of her lovely home. And they are pretty amazing experiences there. I guarantee when you go to one of her meetups, it'll knock you on your ass in a very polite, in a very pleasant way. Yeah. And then my meetups are around the Puget Sound. I have one coming up this week. Actually, this weekend I'm at the Emerald Spiral Expo in Kent. And then I have meetups in Tacoma on the 1st of April and in Montlake Library in Seattle on the 2nd of April. So those meetups are all listed. I also have another special event coming up, a Consciousness Masterclass. I have a webinar tomorrow at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. I'm giving it in person in Tacoma on Monday the 27th at Cutter's Point Coffee. And then I'm also giving it in Seattle on Sunday, April 9th, and I am doing that up at the Finney Ridge Center at 2 o'clock. So those are all posted as well. And then you can also find out about our sessions. Jan and I do individual sessions in person and over Skype. And we're on Facebook. Do you want to tell them about Facebook and Twitter and all that good stuff?
Oh, I'm so bad at that, Joan, because I don't remember all those addresses.
Oh, well.
But it's Janet Barrett on Facebook, or we have... Joan, I'm totally blank with that. You better run with it.
Okay. Well, it's pretty simple. The name of our Facebook group is Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
There we
go. Go there to join the group and join the fun. And Janet's Facebook is?
I have no idea.
Janet Barrett.
Yeah, there we go.
Janet Barrett. And then you can go to mine, Joan Newcomb. So that's pretty easy to find us on Facebook. And then also on Twitter. On Twitter, the show handle is at Joan and Janet. So if you like getting things on Twitter, that's at Joan and Janet. If you like a wide variety of things that are non-show related and occasionally peppered with emergency corgi puppies, and just cute corgi pictures, go to mine Twitter handle, which is at Joan Newcomb. There's a wide variety of things that I do there. Corgis are just to lighten the load.
Right.
So we also have a conscious conference call once a month. It is a very wacky day. I have to say the last 3 days have been very strange.
Wait.
So,
Well, listeners, you may have noticed this in your own world. So Joan and I were talking a little bit before we went on the air, and we're really kind of tracking a lot of stuff. So let me see. We want them to know our free conference call once a month, third Thursday of the month, 7 p.m. Pacific. It's a wonderful, marvelous way to be in a small group, one-on-one, as a small group can be over the phone, and you feel the connectiveness. We focus an hour on making sure you're comfortable with accessing heart-centered awareness and what that might be if you're new to it, and just explore. And we get to look at what we're noticing and what we're all tracking in our different levels of awareness. And I heartily recommend it. And I want to thank everyone who always participates because we have a great time. So there's that. And then check out the website and check out the blogs. Both Joan and I write weekly. Her on Friday, mine on Monday. And we're exploring things where we look to give you a little deeper insight maybe into particular issues. But I write about what happens often in group. And so it's very nourishing to know where we are, and you can tap in on that and work your own stuff out. So Joan does great because she's all over the Puget Sound area meeting people.
I'm all over the Puget Sound area.
She spreads herself out over there. I can just work out of my house.
It's interesting, too, and I realize I don't immediately report on what goes on in those meetups. I know our meetups are very different, even though they're both called Conscious Conversations, because mine actually are conversational to start with. Most of them are conscious conversations. I facilitate the conversation, and the topics arise from the people in the group. And usually after about an hour and a half, we've talked so much, then I have us get up and walk through parallel universes. So if you come to one of those meetups, your life will transform. Don't think it's because you went to that Buddhist group afterwards. It's really because you stepped through a parallel universe and your whole life reorganizes. So it's actually a delightful and wonderful transformation to have.
Yeah, and we get that in group here in my home. People just have such a change. And what's really thrilling is when they come back and then you ask them, well, how are you doing with that thing last week? And they don't even remember it.
Right.
Because it's so changed.
You have sent them beyond. They have gone, Janet, and beyond that.
There they go. So about our topic. What about our topic? Let's get
What
to
about our topics? Well, listen, you know what it occurs to me to do is to just talk really briefly about values in general and what values are. Actually, if I ask you what a value is, what are your top 3, 4, or 5 values?
Okay. So that a value to me is what is important, what is a guideline, what is a baseline, what is essential to how I operate in the world. That's a value. And I can have them all about different things, and most of them I'm not aware of till, you get put on a spot about it. And then I get to go, ooh, I didn't mean to value that, but I can see where I'm holding that in my pattern. So for me right now, respect is very important. Compassion, kindness, openness. Those are some things that show up that I look to offer others, to offer myself. Does that sound like what you were looking for?
Well, actually, I wasn't looking for anything in particular, but it's helping people understand, because some people, don't have a real. And it's interesting for me because I know that I value relationship, and and I value communication. And then someone pointed out that what you spend your money on is also what you value.
Yes.
So it's a statement it's actually a statement of those kind of values. And, I will spend money on experiences rather than material things.
Right. So there's all different kinds of ways that we embrace values. It's And that's what's interesting about it, because I anymore tend to think in terms of patterns of energy that are dictating a value, seen or unseen. But I certainly, I think maybe I take for granted, like you mentioned, relationships, because everything is relational to me. So it's not even a value that I might necessarily first come to mind, because that's just a given to me.
Right.
So that's the value. That's the core value there. Yeah. And being able to be expressive. Oh my gosh, that's a core value.
Right. And, for some people, expressive or creativity is not a value, and that's missing in their lives.
Right.
It's the reason why I will do this with clients is I'll have them clarify what their values are, because then they become navigational tools. And not the people, but their values become navigational tools. And then they realize the reason why they're unhappy working for Microsoft, earning millions of dollars debugging software, is because they don't actually get to interact with people. They're just interacting with the computer. And it's against their core values. So once you start to make choices and navigate according to those things that are really inherently important to you, then you start feeling happier in your life. And so just wrapping it around to, the show topic is that the things that are going on in the world today, as life buzzes by, things that are going on in the world today are really making people face what they value and forcing them to take action on it.
Got it. So I think that was our commercial break sound.
Exactly, I believe so. We need to hurry this along, and keep with that in mind. We'll talk more about this from a state of consciousness after these breaks.
Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye. Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, coming to you from Tacoma, Washington. And here's Janet coming to you from, where do you live?
Portland, Oregon.
Portlandia.
Yes. Lovely place.
So before you take us into heart space, Janet, because everything goes out the window, as if it hasn't already gone out the window. So God knows what it's going to be like now.
Yeah.
But I wanted to mention that I do have a values clarification sheet.
I think this is great. Yeah.
Yeah. So for those of you who want to explore more about values, it's a sheet with a list of potential values and some core questions to ask yourself. So if you would like to know more about your core values, which are really important ways to navigate your life, send us an email to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. And we will send you absolutely free one of these value clarification.
And put that in the subject line, values.
Yes, actually do that too, so that my virtual assistant doesn't get overwhelmed. It's like, what are all these emails? They're blanking. No, please let us know what we're emailing you.
Yeah. So it is really important to take time to reevaluate periodically because life happens. Hopefully things mature or evolve, and then there's a lot of chunks of us that don't in our beingness, and you get to reevaluate this and the difference between intention and expectation. We talk a lot about that in consciousness work. So this is all exploring that. So I got your point about who knows what the hell will show up here. So let's see, everybody. Hold on to your seat or totally relax. See what kind of a experience you have today. So let's just bring your awareness inward. We'll go there. No matter what time or space or place that you're joining us, there is no time or space in consciousness, so it's all live and rippling out across the universes. So just notice. There you go. Check in with your heart. It's a good starting place. Your physical heart. Just notice how it's operating. There you go. And don't judge it. Whatever your inclination is, just love it. So that means just allow your heart to beat. It is your awareness that you are alive, and we appreciate that, if for no other reason than to appreciate that we're alive. So there you go. There we go. There's some physical stuff going on in there, everybody. So just relax. There we go. That's deepening. And then check in on the emotional level, the emotional terrain. Often people react to the word heart because they are thinking about emotions and they have some kind of judgment or agenda about emotions. So we're going to let go of all that, and we're just going to appreciate that we are emotional creatures. And you can get on your high horse all about it. You're still an emotional creature. They are what makes us unique as humans. They provide the texture and tone and the colorations and the flavoring in our soup. So just notice. But from a neutral place, you'll have several emotions up and running. You may be able to notice that or not. A lot of us tend to go through life oblivious, and so we're asking you to check in. And just notice and warmly embrace it. There we go. So feel the warmth of your emotions. And then our third meaning of heart is core, essence of all. And this is where we're all one. This is where we're all just the bits and pieces of photons of light, some biomass, resonances, frequencies, vibrations, and information. All of it following into patterns. Patterns that dictate how we experience life. So just notice, this is where we're all one. This is the level of where I can be here and you can be there and Joan can be there. And everyone is someplace, and we're all one. And this is what consciousness is allowing us to experience right now, and how developing the awareness of our own selves and motivations, we become more aware of those around us and how we all share in this soup. So just notice, this is the infinite sea of potential. So anything that you bring here has the potential to be different. So as we talk about what we're going to talk about or explore in the next 40, 50 minutes together, is open to change and transformation. And as it transforms, it can be transcendent. So we're providing opportunities for each of us in our own way to be open to the possibilities. And possibilities about what are in your vernacular, in your design. But in this reality that Joan and I look to create, and we do create, it's just whether you can acknowledge it or have a hold awareness of it, it's real. So, just take a breath and let it lighten. Let yourself feel something soften. Let it get like Jell-O that you touch and it wiggles. That's really what all this is about, a big bowl of Jell-O. So we'll see where we go today. What you noticing, Joan?
I'm back in the story about Santa Claus and
Yes.
whose belly laughs like a bowl of jelly.
Oh, right. Okay.
But there was something else that I was before that image erased the previous thing. I was something else I was looking at. But it's interesting because usually, and I think I said this last week as well, but usually dropping into heart space is calm and delightful. Mm-hmm. And I'm still noticing, like last week, there's a sense of agitation. There's like a disturbance in the force.
Mm-hmm. And is that within you, or is that from outside awareness?
I feel like I'm tuning into the collective as opposed to within me.
Got it.
And now I remember, this may be just semantics, but my experience is that I am not a creature, but I have a body that is a creature. So my body has emotion. So a lot of what I am dealing with as I'm navigating here is my body's expressions with its feelings, as well as its empathic ability to tune into other people's feelings. And then I am the person who is, riding the horse, who has the bigger picture of what's coming up ahead. And it's not quite as dichotomized as that, but it acknowledges that I am consciousness and that I have a greater perspective, and that my body just wants another carrot or a nose full of oats, a nose bag of oats, or whatever that is.
Mm-hmm. I think what is some of that turbulence is people realizing they have to make some choices. There we go. And what's coming up, what we're talking about today, is what's really important. And we're feeling the difference between where we find ourselves and what we want for ourselves. There we go. And so as we hold that we're in alignment, and that ripples out in the world as this relationship-based experience is, then our signal out is clarity, and that interacts with someone else. And it can allow for them to have their moment of clarity, and information will come back. We're all at so many different places, right? Mm-hmm. And within ourselves, so you can have uproar or upheaval or whatever in many different ways that just feels like a lump sum of human. And you're bringing the awareness that we're consciousness looking at the lump sum of human. And what do we want to do with that? Which is us, so... All right. So core values, yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm sorry. I just had this flash on, if you ever go to Disneyland or Disney World, and you're on something like Splash Mountain, and this is in other amusement parks as well, but, so there's a place where they strategically put a camera, and it catches you as you and everybody else in the same cart as you, are going down the water slide or whatever. And and I'm thinking of those times where most people know to like lift their hands up and they're all laughing, and then there's one person who looks utterly terrified. And that kind of describes the collective that I'm tuning into right now, is that on a level of consciousness, we're all really, really excited by the change. Our bodies are not so much. And you were talking about, we're making a decision, and some people's, are having a doubt about their decision to be here. Why did I get on this ride?
I think that's very true. That's one of those things that's been underneath, is the question of being and being present. And then I got to do something, and then I got to feel bad for what I did or didn't do. And we get into all these deep, spiritual or religious dogmas, and we get to see how all that fits. So it's kind of like clothing that doesn't fit well or is scratchy, and there's no way, until you realize you can take it off. And you have to come to that moment of awareness, which might have been the first instinctual response, was if something itches to take it off or get apart from it, but then something else happens and it diverts our attention, and so we're still in this thing. And then we have to come back to the awareness that we're in this thing that doesn't feel good. And now, as we bring what's happening with the dynamics in place of consciousness and ourselves, this is the time to shed that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be difficult.
No, and actually that is something, we were starting to discuss that at the top of the hour or before going on the show. We're starting to discuss that. And what I am noticing is that it's almost like everything is the opposite. So our old ways of responding to something are not effective anymore, and you have to you have to do the opposite. And I was noticing that last night. I was sitting with a fair amount of physical discomfort in this room, which now I realize I might have been tuning into many people in that room. And the old response, which was my automatic response, was not making any change. If anything, it was just making it more uncomfortable. And the new response would have been, had I been thinking about it, was simply to shift to a parallel universe where it felt different, or to focus point into something as consciousness, and that completely shifts the experience in a very effortless way. None of that was coming through last night. It was very old paradigm stuff. So, yeah, so that's, I think a lot of people even a lot of people who are aware are having a challenging time right now, because their automatic responses to this energy is not working.
Well, and I think I've been registering the difference between transformational energy states and transformative energy states and transcendent energy states. And I hadn't necessarily articulated that for myself. And, we invite potential in. It interacts with what seems to be our concern, our issue, our problem, however you want to label it. And then something different happens because potential has interacted with it. And in that release, it then becomes transcendent. And we're in this, for those of us who track all this stuff, we're all very excited about how this is a transcendent time. And it's interesting that the deeper you go, or the sense that you're going in, exploring yourself has a deepness to it, invites this uplifting quality. Because that's what transcendent is that you come out of, you go to a newer, higher level. And it's just, You know, there is the process time. The body does have its dance that it does, and you can feel the forces at play. Some of us do. We track it that way. Some of us will do it through our emotions. Some of us will do it through our thinking. There's all different ways that we experience where we're at. And in relation, I guess, to core values is where you're talking about how something used to do something and now it doesn't do it. And that could invite you to look again and see what is underneath what you think is going on. That's where I would go with that and go, oh, okay, there's nothing. How do I want to approach it this time? Right.
Yes, and I was preoccupied with your term about transcendent because it's a rising above. Mm-hmm. But you're also talking about how the vibration is changing, so we're all shifting to a higher vibration, which mm-hmm. would be rising above. Mm-hmm. And what I've noticed is actually directionals breaking down, that there are no directions.
Right. And we're really observing that, aren't we?
Yeah. And so for me, it's like the opposite is true. And my previous energy work was very directional, very, mm-hmm. Ground to the center of the earth, go into the center mm-hmm. of your head. And the thing I'm finding is that the points that I focus on aren't fixed anymore. Mm-hmm. There may be a generalized reference point of that area that relates to whatever the chakra used to be in that area, but it's not. So once I find a focal point, and I sort of touch, it's a one pointing, and a one point, that focal point, it shifts my entire reality, and I shift out of pain instantly. Mm. And I've not left my body necessarily, but I'm in a completely different experience with it, and it's not ungrounded. Because that's another thing I used to judge completely. It's mm-hmm. like, ooh, that's so ungrounded. But it's more clearly in this reality space without being in the density of the reality space.
Well, it's that centering quality that's all expansive.
Yes.
So you're centered and you're both expansive at the same time.
And there's no physical discomfort. And if I could follow that, I would be a rich woman.
Right. Well, even the conversation transcendent is out of that old paradigm.
Right.
That we're,
It's
and
like
so,
the language.
Yeah,
the word
our language
transcendent
does
not describe what you were trying to communicate.
Yeah, right. And so, because there is no high or low or, those are just locational, directional markers for placement. Because we are relation-based creatures, so that need for placement is inherent in us. So what does that have to do with core values? Which is interesting because here we talk about core, center, and what's important at the core and center, and separate or different or the same as what is rippling out, right? What is that you're experiencing and I'll give you, for instance, we have this wonderful immigrant issue, for instance, that people are dealing with in this country and all over the world, actually. And it gives me a chance to step back and go, well, how do I feel about this? Not separate from the hype, separate from the uproar, separate from my neighbor, separate. In this place, I need separate because I need to hear what's important to me. And then when I understand and am congruent with my own truth as consciousness, then that starts to ripple out, and once again I engage the all. And so the more that I am aware of what is at core essential to me, the better I am with what shows up in my world surrounding me.
Okay. One of the things that I find is one of the things that I notice is as I play in consciousness and I play as consciousness mm-hmm. in this reality, it's not that my values change necessarily, but what is important. Mm-hmm. changes. And I was thinking about this last night, is that the manifestation used to be so, law of attraction, you focus on this thing and you make vision boards and you, and you make affirmations and you do it every day. And shifting to being here as consciousness, all of that went out the window and it became less focused on manifesting a thing or attaining a thing and having an experience in this reality.
Well, a lot of that setup is about doing something.
Right.
Yes. And what we're making no judgment about any of that, because it all has a place and space. What we're coming to understand, though, that it's about being. And that's the key of what Law of Attraction and Abraham talk about, is that be it. And now it starts to show up in your world, and you can do these practices and these different things, and it just helps encode the state of awareness. But having the ability to realize that it's not about what you're doing, it's about how you're being. And this is what's essential, and for all of us. And that's why core values came up. Because what are you being in a state of congruency? And so that everything you do is expressing that. And your own clutter, your own confusion, your own doubts, your own whatever, your own smoke and mirrors start to shift. And now you can feel good. Because I guarantee that a lot of illness is the difference between what you hold true to be you and what you act out as. And for whatever reasons. And so the more congruent we are, you're not in your own resistance state. Peristaltic action is good. I mean, it's a way we motivate things and do things. But you have to be conscious when you're using that. And that's what we're asking everyone to be, is be conscious, be present.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sorry, I think my son's flight is taking off from Berlin right now, or for Berlin from Madrid, because suddenly I am not in this physical location.
Yeah. We'll take a momentary break, everyone, while Joan experiences liftoff.
Right, right.
Yeah, that's right. We're all lifting off in some way, aren't we?
Right. I'm trying to recapture what you said that launched something that I was going to say, that now I can't remember what it is now. Shoot.
Oh, it'll probably come around.
Right, but just
everything's come around. Everything goes around. It's circular energy.
Folks, we really are not drinking while we're on this show.
I don't need artificial stimulants too much.
Right.
I have my own party in here. So let's go back to values.
Right. What was it about those? Oh, I know. Okay, here's what I was going to say about that before I went flying off. So one of the things I talk about in my meetups is I talk about how this world or this reality is a hologram created by you as consciousness. And when people first start to grasp that idea and then start to play with the idea of this is a hologram and I'm creating everything, and then everyone in my reality is a creation of my consciousness. And then people go down the route of, well, this is an illusion, therefore it's fake, and that means everybody else around me is fake and they're not real. And they'll go through a phase of being really rude to everybody because, hey, they're not real. It's just, this is just an illusion. The thing I find, though, is that when you're really experiencing this as consciousness, when you are really appreciating this reality as a creation of your consciousness, you value it, and you really appreciate people who show up in your field of reference because you love your creations. We love the things we create. We love our children. We love our fish tanks. We love our gardens. There's an inherent love of the creation. So if you're in a state of dissing people because they're not real, or, oh, this is an illusion there, so I'm not going to feed my body or have sex or anything like that, then you're even more enmeshed in the illusion.
I think it's also what I was catching in that was the we love things that make us feel better, but I have to love that who challenges me. You know, I don't have to do anything, actually. What I'm looking at, I take that back, okay, is that I want to be able to embrace what pains me, what challenges me, as much as what in the first flash makes me feel good. Because I think what happens is people are so habituated to denying or running away or not engaging because they don't feel self-confident enough to understand that they can deal with what shows up. And whether it's their training or, you know, their life experience, which is what that is, or belief systems or their learning, all of us are present. And we get to interact. And we were talking about this in group last night, about confidence and self-confidence. And there were two different states of awareness about that. And realizing that you can be confident about things you don't know has nothing to do with you being confident. When you're coming from a place with enough awareness that you can meet whatever challenge shows up in some way, that's self-confidence, but you can't expect it with something new or something different. That's just separate. That's just, okay, this is what I'm bringing to the table, and here's what's on the table, and I can engage it in some way. And it was very, very interesting. We went lots of places with that, and realizing that we were safe in our world or not feeling safe in our world was an act of us learning or us having an experience and gaining. Everything was about gain in that sense. So we don't want to avoid those things that challenge us at all, because actually the ability to be challenged stimulates things. And so I want to make clear for people that if you don't get the first hit, that it feels good, I look at that and I go, that's telling me something about me inside that's being challenged, and am I going to meet it or not? And in that dance is where the value shows up. So it's important stuff.
Yeah, and so you snuck in a viewpoint at the end there, which is different than my viewpoint, and also completely different than what I was going to say when I was waiting for you to take a breath. So, so here's the thing. So, where I went the first time was I was thinking about my oldest son, and when he was a teenager, and there was this hormonal period where he just drove me nuts. And what I realized was I still loved him. I inherently, unconditionally loved this pain in the ass. And I find that when I am operating as consciousness, I have that same appreciation and love for everything in my reality. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is that I no longer feel like I need to go into my stuff in order to resolve it. Mm-hmm. And it's not going into, and it's not going away from, it is making a different choice. Mm-hmm. You can step into a parallel universe and have a different experience of it. Mm-hmm. Now, it's
but there you're being very clear about your dynamics.
Yes.
You're not doing that to avoid. You're not doing that to do anything other than, oh, okay, this is what comes to me in this moment is to shift this. I don't have any questions.
Yes, right. So it's not an egoic thing, mm-hmm. and it's not a personality thing. The ego or the personality will want to try to control this. The ego mm-hmm. or the personality will want to run away from it and make it different. Whereas when you're operating as consciousness, you just go, I'm changing the channel.
Right.
And speaking of not necessarily changing the channel, but taking a break and coming back with a different experience, we are about to take a commercial break. So stay tuned. We'll be talking about consciousness and core values when we come right back.
Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye. Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and I'm your friend, Joan, along here with Janet. And we're talking about consciousness and core values.
And we're tracking, too.
Oh, my.
There's a lot of shift going on.
There's a lot of shift going on.
Yeah, we'll call it that, definitely. So we want to invite all of you, if you're feeling unsettled, go deeper than that. Allow for that. That's okay. And then just... you're going to find yourself in a different place and space, and invite that. That can be good. Yeah, because all this is about all the different, each of us experience life differently, and that connection differently, and consciousness differently.
Yes, because collectively we are consciousness, right. But individually we get to be completely different. Yeah. And so we will have different values. We will have things that are in different importances to us. Different ways of communicating, expressing.
Yeah. And we have managed to kind of stay about values. We wanted to talk about.
As loosely as that can be.
Yes,
definitely. But it's, this is all about navigating from the inside out. It's another way, though I just gave it a directional, or navigating from, your inherent values, are also navigating from the inside out, navigating from the essence of who you are rather than the dictates of society or your culture or those kind of expectations.
Definitely. That's how we all fit in. So okay, something's going on here.
Yeah.
Let's see, what do we got here? Values have different levels of value. Okay, I think that's the way I can put it. Okay, and so when you're being challenged by something and it's coming up again, something's not going easily or expected or whatever, that's a chance to check in and see, look at it from an energetic place, and just register and sometimes you can just do this very simply with your hands, for instance, is you can put this part of the argument is the word that comes to mind in your left hand, for instance, and the opposite in your right hand, for instance, and you can feel the difference. You can feel the balance shifting, and there's a value in that. There's a value in, well, is this as important? Do I give this as much meaning and intensity as I would like? And I've worked with clients often about, well, let's just, in a physical sense, give it something so you can grab onto it, literally, and just register the difference. So here's the issue, here's not issue. And you just notice the interplay that happens if you allow that to be real. And sometimes that thing that seems so heavy can really just go. Because it's so heavy, you can just let go of it. And you'll find that the opposite, or where it's not, is this lightness that you want to embody and hold on to. So it's most everything. Anything you come down to with a challenge is about values to me, and how much you're holding something important or not important. So give yourself a way to observe it. And because we're so 80% of us, are vision based in what we believe, don't believe. So,
and I want to remind people that if you want to explore your values some more, I do have a handy dandy values clarification sheet that helps you come up with your top 5 or 10 values, helps you become really clear about them, and then it does help you make decisions. It helps you realize why you're happy in your job or you're not happy in your job, or what you're spending your money on or what you're not spending your money on. Those are great handy dandy tools. So if you want to get my values my values clarification, you can email conscious with Joan and Janet at gmail.com. That's conscious with Joan and Janet at gmail.com, not conscious conversations. We couldn't fit that all in. Gmail wouldn't let us give that long email handle. But put values clarification in the subject line, and we will know to send that off to you. And we want to let folks know how to go deeper with us and stay connected beyond the show. Do you want to tell them about our website?
Sure. Pam? You can reach us at www.consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. You'll find all our podcasts that'll be listed there that you can access. Our blogs, both Joan and I write, and we really write very nicely, I must say, there, about our meetups. Joan's in the Puget Sound area and travels the circuit up there of all those cities and presenting great conversations. And I do it here in Portland, Oregon, meetups in my home on Tuesday evenings and on Thursday afternoons to fit different schedules. And we have our sessions. And both of us do different kinds of work there, and we can do it over the phone, on Skype, different kinds of classes and things. So please check out that website and get the updated information.
Yes. Let me see. I want to let folks know that I'm going to be at the Emerald Spiral Expo in Kent this Saturday, the 25th. It's at the Kent Commons. It is from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I will be at booth number 50. So come visit me there. And then the next thing coming up is on Monday night. I'm going to be offering a consciousness masterclass. So if you want to go beyond the parallel universes and have some really deep experiences and techniques about how to navigate your life, it's you can actually go visit me in Tacoma on Monday night, or tomorrow. Actually, I have the webinar. Yes, tomorrow is the webinar. So if you're non-local, that's the way to connect to me there. So, and what else do we have coming up as we're sliding into home here?
Oh, I don't know. I think I slid out already.
Okay. So once a month we do have a Conscious Conversations conference call, and it is a way to, that's the way to get up close and personal with us. If you're listening to the podcast and you're not able to call in live, this is a wonderful small group experience that where Janet takes us in, and there's Q&A. You can actually just have a conversation with us in a way that's not possible here online.
And that'll be on the 20th of April at 7 p.m. Pacific. So just write to us about that. So I think it's time for us to go.
We're so glad we had this time together. Yes. So next week we'll be talking more about the upheaval. Stay tuned because we will let you know exactly what that's about because we know there's going to be more upheaval.
Yeah.
And you have been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and I'm your host, Joan Newcomb.
And I'm Janet Barrett. And thank you so very much for joining us.
Right. Tune in next week.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And thanks so much for helping to co-create the show, no matter if you're listening live or on demand. You energetically contribute to our collective experience. Joan and Janet love to hear from you and invite you to email your comments and ideas for them to explore each week. Contact them at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Tune in next week for another great show, and until then, keep enjoying this wonderful adventure we call life.